Welcome, traveler, to the most fortified bastion of the Nachreich. Gaze in awe upon the masonry crafted from the shadows themselves, the parapets lined with sliverous gaps from which my deftest ravens might take aim upon our foes, securing the safety of any guest nestled within. Bask in the glory of security, and know you shall have the promise of the Prinzessin der Verurteilung that you will be safe from all manner of physical treachery while in these hallowed halls. Yet hark, for tonight is the night of the full moon, with a 13th hour upon us. Soon the veil shall thin and give way to the spirit realm. From this, not even I can grant you full security. Indeed, you are a fighter most noble and true. Thine blade hast cut through beast and spectre alike. Then, my trusted knight, we must prepare you for the war ahead. Come, and I shall debrief you on the truth of the monsters we face. This way, through the corridor to the... remove thine sabaton first. Thine sabaton, also known as solar ray? Your boots. Take off your shoes before coming in the house. My mom doesn't like when we track mud. Verily, now clasp thine hand in mine, and I shall guide thee to the most royal dark chambers. Enter bravely into the seance circle you see before you. Yes, to thine inexperienced eyes, it may appear to be a ring of plush cushions upon the floor. It matters not which thou choosest to alight upon, so long as it isn't the purple one, that is. That's mine. Before we venture into the sordid histories and horrors of our foes, allow me to bless you with my divine fortification. Here, I have gathered a spread of the most powerful elixirs in all the Nachreich. The blood of the great interastral whale. And the eyes of the all-seeing stars. It is clear upon your face this gives you pause. Fear not, traveler. Such a fortifying meal is indeed safe for consumption. The punch, that is, blood, is pleasantly sweet, while the eyes come straight from the most noble Dawn winery. They're just peeled grapes. Oz was in a most fearsome battle against a rift hound this week, and deserves a rest. Besides, he oft spoils my stories in his kind efforts to translate. We shall carry on in his absence. Art thou comfortable? Many a plush pelt decorate the circle, should a draught or shiver of fear leave you feeling chilled. Very well. Then, are you prepared to set foot into the realm of horrors? take my hand and let us begin with a history of one of the most haunting figures to ever stalk these halls. Long ago, when the nations of Tevat were still young and the Archon War was still fresh in their minds, there lived an elegant young woman. She was beautiful, yet cloaked in shadows of mystery. Deep, bottomless eyes watched from beneath inky hair, both black as the velvet ribbon always worn around her neck. She was a noblewoman, and, as was customary, soon caught the eye of a noble man of another house. Before long, they grew close, until at last they planned to marry before the next full moon rose in the autumn sky. He'd thought for once he might see her neck bare, or at least that she would change her ribbon for white, as was the custom. Yet, on the day of their wedding, he watched in surprise as she walked towards him up the long aisle. She was dressed in a white gown, a white veil, and carried a bouquet of white flowers. Even her face was ivory white, but below it, around her slender, pale neck, was the black velvet ribbon. He remembered staring at that ribbon as the strains of the wedding march brought his bride nearer to him. He remembered the curious and shocked looks on the faces of the wedding guests. But then his eyes met hers, and he was drowning in their bottomless darkness. He didn't think of the velvet ribbon during the rest of his wedding day. It was a joyous time, and if people thought his wife was a bit strange, they kept that to themselves. Only that night, when they were alone, did he notice that the ribbon was still there, still circling her lovely neck. "Don't you ever take that ribbon off?" he asked. "You'll be sorry if I do," the noble lady answered, "so I won't." Her answer disturbed him, but he did not question her further. There was plenty of time for her to change her ways. Their life fell together into a pleasant pattern. They were happy, as most newly married couples are. He found her to be a perfect wife. Well, nearly perfect. Although she had a great number of gowns and wore a different one every day, she never changed the black velvet ribbon. This ribbon began to be the test of their marriage. When he looked at her, his eyes would inevitably fall to her neck. When he kissed her, he could feel the ribbon tightening around his own throat. "Won't you please take that ribbon from around your neck?" he asked her time and time again. "You'll be sorry if I do, so I won't." This was always her answer. At first, it teased him. "You'll be sorry if I do, so I won't." Then it began to grate on his nerves. "You'll be sorry if I do, so I won't." Now it was beginning to infuriate him. "You'll be sorry if I do." One night, in a fit of blind rage, he tried to pull the ribbon off after she had repeated her answer like a trained dusk bird. It wouldn't come loose from her neck. He realized then, for the first time, that the ribbon had no beginning and no end. It circled her neck like a band of steel. He drew back from her in disgust, only to be met with a sad, elegant smile from the noble lady. Things weren't the same with them after that. At the breakfast table, the black ribbon seemed to mock him as he drank his suddenly bitter coffee. In the afternoon, outside, the ribbon stole from the sunlight like a murder of crows. But it was at night when it bothered him the most. He knew he could live with it no longer. 4 weeks into their marriage, he made his demand. Either take that ribbon off, or I will. You'll be sorry if I do, so I won't. She smiled at him and finished preparing for bed. Before long, he heard the soft melody of her gentle snores. But he did not sleep. He lay there, staring at the hated ribbon. He had meant what he said. If she would not take off the ribbon, he would. As she lay sleeping and unsuspecting, he crept out of bed and over to her sewing box. He had seen a small, sharp scissors she kept there. It was thin enough, he knew, to slip between the velvet ribbon and her soft neck. Gripping the scissors in his trembling hands, he walked softly back to the bed. He came up to where she lay and stood over her. Her head was thrown back on the pillow, and her throat, with the black velvet ribbon around it, rose ever so slightly with her breathing. He bent down, and with one swift movement, he forced the thin blade of the scissors under the ribbon. Then, with a quick, triumphant snip, he severed the ribbon that had come between them. The black velvet ribbon fell away from his wife's neck, and her head rolled off the bed and landed on the floor with a thump. She was muttering, "You'll be sorry. You'll be sorry." "Hark, noble knight. Thine face has gone pale. Quickly, drink deep of the elixir." "Are you all right now? Perhaps you are daunted by the foes around us? The 13th hour ticks closer." I'm sorry. This was supposed to be fun. Are you certain? Then perhaps a less gruesome tale to lift your spirits. Trust in your princessin, and know that I shall weave you a tale with a most joyous resolution. It begins within a chamber such as this. On a dark, howling night, the daughter of grand adventurers found herself to be alone. Her parents had promised to return from their latest expedition by the final rays of the sunset, but a torrent of rain slowed their voyage, and now the child was left with naught but an empty home and an enchanted phonograph gifted to her family by a well-known sorceress. Demons of the dark seemed to claw at her window panes, the howls of the damned echoing all around her home. With the grandest desperation, the young maiden clutched the nearest blanket tight over her head and cowered among the sofa cushions. And then she heard a spin crystal begin to play. As all will surely know, the gifts of a sorceress are oft as magical as the women themselves, and such was the case for the enchanted phonograph. For no matter the distance, should one speak into the funnel of this marvelous device, their voice would carry on to its matching pair. And indeed, the adventurers were gifted with not one, but 2 such devices, so that whilst away on their journey, they might still speak with their child. Hearing the spin crystal begin to spin of its own accord, the girl leapt to her feet, rushing eagerly to receive the kind words of her family. Yet the sound which emerged was not any voice she knew. "This is Bloody Mary. I am 2 miles from your house." The record stilled. Outside, a grand boom of thunder cut the night, augmenting the horror that now plagued the child. 2 miles? Such a distance would not take long to cross, and— No, I swear to you, no harm shall come to the cast upon our stage tonight. Do you trust me? I am most gracious to hear that. Then, as I was saying, in her terror, the child began to gather protections. First, she sought the sword her father hung above the mantel. Though simple in nature and long since dulled from years of adventuring, the weapon was light enough for her to swing and sturdy enough to deter her foes. Next, she sought out a shield. Yet, before she could begin her hunt, the foreboding click of the record spinning arrested her in her tracks. "This is Bloody Mary." The voice echoed throughout the corridors. "I am 1 mile from your house." "Who are you?" the child demanded, yet the spin crystal fell still without a reply. Loud as cannon fire, a sudden force slammed against the front door. The girl screamed and raised her sword, braced for mortal combat. Yet a woeful howl revealed it had just been the gales of the storm. Yet the terror did not leave her heart, nor did the resolve. A barricade, she realized, would be most necessary. With great strain and effort, she drew up all her might and shoved the sofa across the room. But before she even reached the front door, another hard, heavy boom echoed. This time there was no howl. This time the boom was followed by a second, and then a third. The battering of a fist against the door. "This is Bloody Mary," came the muffled voice through the door, echoing clearly from the phonograph as the spin crystal played. "I am outside your house." The lock began to rattle. The child looked from the sofa to her sword, then to the door. She knew then she could not avoid this confrontation. The monster must be fought head on. She clutched the blade's hilt tight, drew in a steadying breath, and thrust open the door. There stood a woman, fine in features and delicate in stature, holding up a single, scratched finger. "This is Bloody Mary," she said. "Might I have a bandage?" Indeed, it is a most delightful horror. Long ago, during a great and fearsome thunderstorm, the king and queen of the Immersive shared such a tale with me to soothe my soul. 'Tis indeed where I first heard the name Bloody Mary. Long since has that tale sat pleasantly within mine breast. Hast thou a favorite tale of woe? Oh, I would be most pleased to listen. Worry not. I, Fischl, the Prinzessin der Verurteilung, have witnessed an endless amount of atrocities and the end of many worlds. No haunting tale shall be too much for me. Chill my bones and make my hair raise on its ends. I am most eager to listen.